like to call the meeting to order. And please note that the following members are absent and send their regrets. Trustee Johal and Chair Malat. And could we play the acknowledgement of the traditional lands, please?
The land upon which we work, live, and sustain ourselves is the ancestral and treaty lands of the Michizagig Anishinaabe, also known today as the Mississaugas of the Credit, the rightful caretakers and title holders of this land. We also recognize the rich pre-contact history and relationships which include the Anishinaabe and the Ongwe-Hongwe.
Since European contact, this land continues to be home to Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. As responsible community members, we value the diversity, dignity, and worth of all people.
Colonialism displaced and dispossessed Indigenous peoples of their ancestral land
and continues to deny their basic human rights, dignities, and freedoms.
We are committed to learning true history to reconcile, make reparations, and fulfill our treaty obligations to the original peoples and our collective responsibilities to the lands, water, animals, and each other for future generations.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, may I have a motion that the Special Education Advisory Committee approves tonight's agenda? Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion? No, okay then. All in favor? Okay, great. Moving on. Section 4. Are there any conflicts of interest to be declared? No one online. Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's see. May I have a motion that the Special Education Advisory Committee approves the minutes of December 16th, 2025? Thank you. Seconder? Okay, beauty. Okay, is there any discussion on this? All in favor? Okay, it's passed. Okay, no public delegations? Nope. Okay, so section 7. Superintendent's oral report, 7.1. May I have a motion that the Special Education Advisory Committee receives the superintendent's report? Oh, no, I have to show it first. Yes, okay, great. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair Clerk, and through you. Welcome back, everyone, and Happy New Year. I hope each of you had an opportunity over the break to rest, rejuvenate, and spend meaningful time with family, friends, and loved ones. As we come together for our first SEAC meeting of 2026, I want to extend my appreciation for your ongoing commitment and collaboration as we continue our important work in support of students with special education needs across the board. I'm thrilled to share that the work continues to advance on the Special Education Programming Workbook. This tool remains an important component of our broader strategy to strengthen program planning, deepen educator understanding, and support consistency across schools. As a part of the upcoming Professional Learning Day, all educators in our learning hubs will have dedicated time to explore the workbook in detail. They will learn about the full range of resources, learn about the 6 domains of effective practice, and supports embedded within it, and will have structured time to apply these learnings directly to their ongoing work with students. This intentional time is designed to support thoughtful reflection, collaboration, documentation for accountability, and implementation in support of student learning, achievement, and well-being. I would also like to share an update for our amazing social work department. This school year, social work has begun accepting self-referrals for counseling from secondary students age 14 plus. This shift was communicated to families and schools through memos and system messages. Thus far, 480 secondary schools have referred themselves for additional support, in addition to the 930 counseling cases referred by educators and caregivers. Social work continues to provide support groups across the system to promote mental health and well-being in ways that are identity affirming and led by social workers with shared lived experiences. The social work department supports all students and those students and families who are currently unhoused, being via community sponsors for food and clothing, and our seasonal winter care and connection program, which helps 200 families in December. In addition, our social work team has been leading a multidisciplinary group focused on the implementation of Aaron's Law, Bill 123 within PDSB. This work has been grounded in strong collaboration across all departments, including curriculum, safety and well-being, and special education. Together, the team has developed coordinated approaches, communications, curriculum, and supports to ensure that schools are equipped to deliver age-appropriate, trauma-informed learning aligned with the requirements of the legislation and meeting the needs of our students. In order to support financial responsibility across the system, all central departments will be making some temporary central staffing adjustments for the remainder of the 2026 school year. A number of centrally assigned staff will be temporarily reallocated to school-based teaching positions for the duration of semester 2 in order to ensure that resources are directed back to schools. These decisions are currently being considered, and throughout this process, we have remained attentive to how we can maintain access to learning, service, and support for students and families. We've also taken into consideration CAC's ongoing feedback regarding developmental structures and the importance of continuity of service. As we look ahead, we will also be discussing our staffing plans for 2026-2027 school year, along with program needs and priorities. We would like to invite CAC into this conversation and welcome your continued feedback as we plan for the year ahead. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. May I have a motion that the Special Education Advisory Committee receives the superintendent's report? Thank you. Seconder? Somebody? Okay. Actually, thank you very much. Okay. Any question? Do we have any questions for discussion? Okay. Thank you.
Can you just talk a little bit more about the central staffing and shift staffing to school-based? I don't know if I missed something, but I don't know much about that, so you could explain a little bit more.
Yeah, through you, Chair. It just happened in the new year. Central departments were asked to reduce the number of central resource teachers to ensure that we were meeting the school-based needs. So departments have met and had preliminary discussions around what those shifts would look like. The reallocation, it's important to note, is temporary for right now for the remainder of the school year and is not impacting upcoming staffing, which will be held through our regular G32 and 33. I know you've heard that language before, but our regular staffing process that we must follow in accordance with union expectations.
Could you give us an example of some of the, maybe in the special ed department?
So there's consideration for a reduction of maybe a few individual educational resource teachers or some CR resource teachers, but the reductions in our department will be minimal because we are considered essential services.
Does this impact, for instance, there's been some impact on some EAs?
There is no reduction of EAs scheduled for right now. No.
And will we let us know exactly like what changed?
Absolutely. As decisions are finalized, we have to go through, of course, as you know, we've shared before that there are ongoing processes of communications with unions and associations, principal associations, etc. But as soon as those are finalized, I will bring it back to the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
But the social work, you said that was, how was that communicated to students and parents?
So through our ongoing family system messages that we receive, we've shared that information multiple times about the self-referral through our system family messages that the board sends out.
So what is a system family system as? Is that the newsletters? Is that?
So you will receive as a parent emails from the system that highlights kind of items that have changed and been updated in the board. And so I think coordinating principal Dura Salmon is here, but I think it was in two times. Once last year when the change first occurred, and then once again this year. I don't have a recollection as to what
Emails
one.
are specific to
Self-referred.
work?
Yeah.
parent, not on that list as a parent.
Oh, I will check that out. That's interesting. Yes. It's combined with all other system messages, so you have to read through the entirety of the message. So it includes updates around curriculum. It will include updates around events. So it's not a unique message in isolation. It's a part of a greater system message, if that family message, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand.
Do you receive those?
I do receive
Okay.
newsletters, which have 4,000 things.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's what it's called, sure.
And they have like basically the news from
Yes.
school and then the rest of
Yes.
it in Java.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But it's centrally assigned, not the ones through the school themselves.
It's not the stuff that's attached to the school. It's
No, that's different.
up to those.
It's the one sent from the board.
How do you ensure you have an up-to-date list to get to parents?
I can, through you, if you would like, I can put that on the motion action log and find out, how I think they run it through, Power Schools contract, but I don't want to misguide you. So if I can put it on the, motion action log, I will get a hold of the head of the communications department and bring that back to SEAC to make sure that parents are aware if they're not receiving those messages, how they can ensure through their school that they have accurate information. I'll put that on the motion log.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Is that all for questions? Okay, great. Okay. Then all in favor of the seat? Okay, full beans. Don't they say that anymore, but I do. Okay, so 7.2, we've got tiered reading interventions, another presentation.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, I'd like to invite coordinating principal from the curriculum department, Sophia Saleh, to present on behalf of the board.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you, Superintendent Scocato. And through you, Chair, I will be presenting the tiered reading interventions report on behalf of the curriculum and special education departments. Oh, it works, perfect. So this report highlights the significant work that the Peel District School Board has done in support of students through tiered reading interventions. This support has come in a variety of formats to ensure that it lands on students' desks and as a result, in increased achievement in reading. The board has supported professional learning opportunities that focus on reading, invested in literacy coaches who are now supporting in each school that has a kindergarten to grade 2 classroom, has provided training in the implementation, training and implementation time for early reading screeners as mandated by the ministry, and has set out a series of resources for every single school to ensure that this training and the learning are implemented using evidence-informed resources supported by the ministry requirements in K-2 classrooms. PPM 168, which addresses reading instruction and early reading screeners, mandated that all school boards do the following. We have to implement reading screeners in all year 2, kindergarten, grade 1, and grade 2 classrooms using evidence-informed tools. Ensure that reading time is protected in every single grade 1 to 3 classroom. That educators offer tiered support and interventions. That we have literacy coaches in kindergarten to grade 2 classrooms. And at this time, the Peel District School Board is in compliance with all of these ministry requirements outlined in PPM 168. Compliance with this PPM is a result of cross-departmental collaboration between both the special education department and curriculum. This work cannot be done by one team alone. For Peel District School Board, we selected to use the Acadience screener as our early reading screener to help us collect reading data. This tool was chosen because it has the breadth and the scope to support kindergarten up to grade 8 students, as well as students in French immersion programs, and support students who have a neurodiverse background. However, the PPM requires us to only use it right now from kindergarten year 2 to grade 2. This means that all students in kindergarten year 2 to grade 2, including those with IEPs, are screened using the Acadian screener. The results of the screener are then communicated to families in a variety of ways. Most importantly, the results are communicated through the report cards and the kindergarten communication of learning reports for term 1 and term 2. The role of literacy coaches aligns with the requirements of PPM 168. The 42 coaches that currently work in the kindergarten to grade 2 classrooms across our district serve 176 schools. Their role is to implement a student-centered learning model that strengthens tiered reading and literacy. We all know that reading instruction and intervention is a cross-departmental effort, and literacy coaches cannot move reading scores alone. So in collaboration with the special education department, the speech and language pathologists have played a significant role in reading instruction in the early grades. There has been joint planning of interventions to ensure that oral language communication and early literacy strategies align with the reading interventions. This partnership has promoted alignment, cross-departmental learning, and improved outcomes for students, as will be shared shortly. It's important to note here that reading interventions are tiered. There are 3 tiers of support. This reading intervention model is very fluid, flexible, and responsive to student needs. Data is what drives the tiered approach to instruction. Student growth and learning impact the level of support that's offered, ensuring responsiveness for each learning goal. So the tiered approach shifts to support students by offering students smaller or larger group instructional opportunities, increasing or decreasing the level of direct reading instruction, or it can vary in how long a reading lesson may be and or how often it may occur. As mentioned earlier, there are 3 tiers to the reading instruction model. Tier 1 is where all strands of the language curriculum are offered to all students. The classroom teacher is responsible for this teaching. During this learning, teachers are conducting assessments for learning to ensure that lessons are delivered to students using a differentiated effort. Tier 2 intervention is now a more tailored approach to reading instruction, and it's based on a specific learning goal that the student has not yet met in their learning of reading skills. So in this tier, students may receive very explicit instruction in small, flexible groups where they practice specific reading skills to ensure that key concepts and skills are learned for reading. And it's fluid again. Tier 3 reading intervention is more of an intensive and explicit approach. It's based on specific skill development. This level of support is often delivered by the special education teacher. This is because of the intensity, the frequency of support, and the required training that is necessary to ensure the implementation of this and fidelity of the curriculum. Because Tier 3 interventions are explicit and specific, the board has invested in a variety of scientifically based interventions to ensure that learning is happening to high fidelity. On the screen, you'll see there are a few examples of some of the resources that are used in schools to support students who require this level of reading support. I'll give you a moment to take a look. It's important to note here that school administrators, literacy coaches, and teachers develop targeted Tier 2 and Tier 3 plans to support student reading acquisition. And these plans include ongoing progress monitoring, mid-year re-administration of that screener, and alignment with school improvement goals. It's interesting to note here that also some schools have extended Acadians up to grade 8. So they've purchased this out of their budget to identify gaps and to guide intervention for junior and intermediate learners. Having said this, we continue to collect data to ensure that the tiered reading interventions are impacting student reading levels. We continue to collect this data as reading screeners were implemented in September 2024, and we have comparative data that is not yet available for us to determine that level of impact. Preliminary analysis of this data, though, that we have collected has shown positive trends and reading acquisition overall. We have also seen measurable gains in reading for students in learning hubs. These students have received Tier 2 and Tier 3 reading interventions. Notably, early reading screener data has shown improvements in decoding, accuracy, and fluency among intensively supported learners. The special education team has been working hard on continuing to provide teachers with training in corrective reading and empower reading. These programs strengthen Tier 3 literacy instruction and support continued reading growth across the Peel District School Board. For all students, specifically for students with IEPs, we will continue to use data to support teachers in making informed decisions to determine the tiered support that they need to offer to students. Our collective goal is to continue to see positive gains in reading for all students, specifically students with IEPs and those in learning hubs. This brings me to the end of my report, and I'm happy to respond to any questions that you may have.
Very much. That's someone who was a very early adopter of reading. I do certainly appreciate the severe importance of having our students read.
Absolutely.
Okay, so may I have a motion that the Special Education Advisory Committee receives the report on tiered reading interventions? Thank you, and seconded. Great, thank you. Okay, any questions, comments?
Anybody else?
How about it?
So I just wanted to understand a little bit more about the cadence or that, what that looks like for students with special needs, specifically nonverbal learners.
So we have, through you, Chair, Acadians is screened, every student is screened. So we have various different modalities of Acadians. So for instance, we have, for those who are sight impaired, we have Braille versions of Acadians. And for those who are nonverbal, we still do that test. And at times we have found that the timer might just run out. However, there have been times where we've actually gotten data that we otherwise would not have had. And it's been a surprise to many teachers who didn't realize that students actually knew letters, letters or sounds of letters that they didn't ever test on or screen for.
So Kendra, how do you, I went through some of the tests or whatever I could find online on these, a lot of it were like, look at this letter and stamp it for me, things like that. So how do you do that?
So it's done on an iPad, on a device, and they show the letter, the student reads the letter, it's timed, and then once the timer runs out, there's a score that's calculated automatically. We have a platform that's computerized and digitized, and it does the calculation for you. So depending on the speed, the fluency, the accuracy, it will tell you where that student is, whether the student has met benchmark or not yet met benchmark.
Through you, Chair, if I can just add to that, because we do have students who are early readers. And so reading is not only oral reading, reading is also comprehension or responding to text or engagement with reading. So for many of our Learning Hub educators, we've taken part in comprehensive literacy, which is looking at the trademarks of reading in a different light than just traditional ways. And so through you, Chair George, I'm not sure if you're aware of how many Learning Hub educators we've trained in comprehensive literacy, but I think we're up to about I think over 80 classroom teachers trained in classroom literacy. And we bought the resources that align to that. So they wouldn't necessarily qualify for Acadience as coordinating principal is sharing, but we do comprehensive literacy in our learning hubs for students who are not speaking, but still can respond and enjoy and learn from text.
All right. So if we test, we test everyone with Acadians. So we're not testing everyone with Acadians. Sorry.
Through you, Chair, there would be some students who would not qualify based on what their benchmark is. So we offer the opportunity for all, but there are some families and some students who would not meet that threshold. And certainly it's a conversation with families.
And how big of a group is that?
For you, Chair, I do not have an exact number of the number of students that are benefiting from comprehensive literacy. But that is work that we can share with you around and bring back as a report if you like to understand the significant impacts that we believe comprehensive literacy is having for some of our students. It's quite amazing to see. And we even have videos. We'd have to get permission to share of students responding to oral text being read and being able to answer questions, which is really exciting, using augmentative communication through the support of our speech and language department. So it's a partnership between our IERTs, speech and language, psychology, again, to look at that. So if that's a report that we'd like to bring back, I'm positive that coordinating principal Erla Jacket would be thrilled to share that great news with you.
Definitely, whenever we're talking about this, we'd love to hear what all the students are.
100%. We will bring that back as a report as soon as possible. Thank you.
So I guess that kind of, I'm just curious as to how well the tools worked with all students. So I've kind of answered that question about that. And then I read in the report that you're not actually tracking whether students are on an IEP or not on an IEP at this point. Because in your data, is that accurate?
Yes, through you, Chair. The Acadience platform does not have any kind of demographic data. So we only have student names and student numbers. Other than that, there is no other identifying information.
So through you, Chair, well, the Acadience report doesn't tell us that. School-based SRMs would be able to indicate that through the student review systems, right? So that there's alignment that way. What coordinating principal Cecilia is sharing with you is that the Acadience report doesn't have the demographics to that, but school-based SRMs would have that. So if they bring a student to a student review meeting and they're reviewing Acadience scores, they would certainly know if the child was on an IEP or not and be able to apply those accommodations, modifications as necessary to the program. It's just that the assessment itself doesn't track it.
Right. If I may add to that, I was just going to add that literacy coaches are also well informed. They're in classrooms working directly with students, and those students who have an IEP, they would be aware of that too.
My thought was more around tracking and how we're how it's improving things. So what we're doing, is it working? So if we can marriage that data with the Acadience data and then see progress, we can see if our students on IEPs are progressing at the same rate, or what's happening. That by separating that out, it gives us a lot of information. So a way to link those two pieces of information would be key. Thanks.
Okay, anything more? Anything online? Okay, then should we receive this? All in favor? Okay, beauty. Okay, thank you very much. That's a great report. I look forward to seeing video evidence of all the stuff that our kids are doing. I personally would love to see it, and I know it would be great for the public to be able to see how this stuff works, because for most of us, it's a mystery of how we, help people who learn differently and perceive differently, how we can get them all to appreciate literature. Okay, thank you. And now on to communication cluster pilot survey number 2 results.
Thank you. And through you, Chair, I would like to ask Coordinating Principal Jeff Bertrand to please present the Communication Cluster Pilot report. And alongside of Coordinating Principal Bertrand, we also have our Research Manager, Lynn Ollinghead, who was instrumental in this report and in the collection online to answer any questions.
Thank you. And through you, Chair, really wanted to bring this report back to the committee to share the results of family and educator surveys that were conducted last year in February, again this fall, in partnership with our research department, who helped us craft questions and collected the data for us and organized the reports that were shared both in the agenda for this year's data and a hard copy for last year's data. So a huge thanks to Lynn and her team for supporting with that. The surveys focused on inclusion, sense of belonging, and perceived support in both literacy and mainstream classes. And so we do collect other data for students in our common clusters, such as Empower data, KTEA data. That's collected at various times throughout the year, but these surveys were really about how students and parents felt last year with the change from a contained model to a withdrawal model, and this year for students who are either in their second year in that model or first year in that model. And so doesn't want to work now. Do you mind going 2 slides up, Mark, please? One more. So the highlights that I'm sharing in the slide deck are pulled exactly from the report, but I'm not going to go through all of them. I just wanted to highlight a few of them for you here. And notice some fairly significant changes around the perception of inclusion from year 1 to 2 was a pretty substantial change from 38 to 60%. So again, that's trending in a positive direction. Some other ones, the strong support for learning. So families felt that, again, going from 56 to 70 and again from 60 to 80 in other classes. So feeling that the program is providing support not only with literacy and reading and decoding, which is what Empower is designed to do, but also across their other classes. And then again, the feelings of sense of belonging, safety, and overall school climate. Many of the scores increased, including some of them quite significantly. Mark, if you can go to the next one, please. Families highlighted benefits of the cluster program, very similar over the 2 years. And the one that I really wanted to sort of highlight was around educators. And there's a significant jump in educators who feel they have received the supports necessary to be successful in their roles as literacy teachers. And that went from 53 to 85%. So we were quite pleased with that. We've taken some very intentional steps with our comm teachers to collect feedback from them and incorporate some systems and processes such as monthly network meetings that have really led to them feeling like they're supported, like they have a network of professional colleagues that they can rely on. And so we're hoping that that will continue to be the case and will continue to support students in their learning. Mark, next one, please. So feedback, we're looking for some feedback, and I know it was a very long report because we had to include the original one from last year, the right to read, the 2 surveys. So we've sort of put up 4 areas where we might be looking for feedback, and there is a QR code there, or as it says in the report, you can just email me directly if you have feedback around these. So again, keeping this model, we made a small switch this year with building in time for comm teachers to provide support to students in their mainstream classes. So they're working with them on the Empower decoding program, but they've also got availability to go support them in math, in history, or social sciences, whatever the case may be. And anecdotally, a lot of our comm teachers are spending a lot of time in math classes, supporting students with numeracy as well. And so we are doing some professional learning with them to support that so that they can be in a better place to support students. Feedback around the consolidation of smaller programs. So you'll notice that families did talk about the impact they felt the smaller classes had, but we have some very small classes, and so wondering about whether or not we consolidate those into classes where there will be 6 to 8 kids in each cluster as opposed to maybe 2 or 3. There are benefits and drawbacks to doing that because oftentimes you want a certain critical mass of students in your class for activities and work to take place. The expansion of the Tier 3 interventions that, according to Principal Soleil talked about, where we are providing corrective reading and empowered decoding resources and training into more and more of our elementary schools, and the impact that's having on literacy rates, and whether we continue to try and get that to be the standard, or we continue with our model here. And then comm teachers being supervised by school principals. The last couple of years with the switch, they have been supervised by central principals for a number of reasons, but one of which I think probably the driving factor was to promote program fidelity by not having them pulled to cover absences or do other things in the building. And so there are some significant drawbacks to having central principals sort of supervising teachers that are in one school location all day, every day. And so looking at the possibility of having them go back to the school allocations and be supervised by principals. So any of those, plus on the feedback form, there is another section for any other feedback, any comments, anything else. And again, the QR code will take you to the form. You can email me directly or happy to come back to another meeting if folks would like us to collect feedback and then respond at some point in the future, because I know it was a lengthy report to get through. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we have any questions or comments?
How many students do we have in the program this year and last year?
Yeah.
And prior to the change, do we have ballpark?
Through you, Chair. Off the top of my head, no. When we made the change from the contained to the cluster model, we knew that we maintained the exact number of available spaces. But I don't have an exact number. I believe we have less students this year than we did previously. But I don't know for sure. I'd have to bring that back at the next meeting.
So I know last year, by January of last year, the numbers were smaller than they were originally in the individual program, correct? Just wondering, have they decreased again?
So again, without the numbers for sure, our junior and intermediate programs, many of them are near capacity. We do have some smaller programs in a couple of schools, but I can bring the exact numbers back.
Okay. And through you, Chair, if I just can add to that, we have seen, if you see a proponent of reductions in primary, like early primary numbers, is because the board is very much committed, as you heard through our first report, to early reading interventions and direct instruction in reading and accountability of that programming in both kindergarten through our OLINK program, our oral literacy program that we shared with you previously, and direct instruction in grades 1 and 2. And you'll also probably have heard that there's a new kindergarten program being released by the ministry that is going to again refocus on early reading, which will also have an impact. So, there is, I think, a correlation between that early intervention, direct instruction, and accountability happening from field superintendents. Like a lot of field superintendents will go into each school and say, let's talk about reading, let's talk about your early reading programs. And so you'll see those benefits, I think, come slowly into a reduction of need for tier 3 intervention in that way. So there's some hope there as well, because we're seeing that trend of kind of higher levels of accountability for instruction early on.
So are we collecting data that shows this?
Through you. So our biggest, and Lynn's online, so Lynn, I'm not sure if you want to jump in on this, but we do collect the Acadians data as was shared with grade 1s and 2s, and we have seen a trend moving upwards as was shared in that first report. And there's EQAO data that we also collect, but I'm going to ask our research manager, Lynn Hollingshead, to jump in here.
Thank you, Superintendent Spicotto, through Chair. I believe the question is about understanding the trends of students needing supports, and then our ability to meet those supports along the way. Forget your last name, Bertrand, Principal Bertrand mentioned that he didn't have the numbers off this top, neither do I, but certainly these are some things that we could look at and bring back to understand where students are at in the early years.
Thank you, appreciate that. Do you have just a ballpark, how many students are in these programs? Just ballpark, like 200, 550?
Through you, Chair, we have 18 clusters
Okay.
that can hold up to 16 students. And then we have schools that deliver Empower through their ISSP teachers or deliver corrective reading interventions. So those were the ones that Coordinating Principal Sally was talking about. We are trying to figure out how we're going to collect that data because that is new for us. And we have schools using 2 different interventions that are similar, but slightly different. Whereas in our clusters, we have established practices of the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, we're doing Empower data, we're doing KTEAs once a year. So we're working towards that now as well in the other ones.
That data you're talking about from Empower and KTEA, is that something you can present at SEAC to show, before? I know we had tons of data before, we used to get it on a regular basis, and then are we getting the same results now that we were?
Through you, Chair, sure. I think we could look to bring that data back. I'm just trying to think of when, because we're just starting Empower collection now, and then we do it again in the spring. And then the KT is
already. You said we could do it in the fall. Probably.
We could. So we collect at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and the end of the year for Empower. And the KT is we just do once a year, usually like February and March. So we could look to bring in the fall a sort of fulsome couple of years of data if we have it for each site. And then we just have to figure out how to present it all.
To me, that's the key, right? This is a pilot program. Is it working to get the kids where they need to get to, right? Is it working the same way as it was before? So that's data we should be looking at pretty, right? I imagine that's kind of one of your benchmarks, right?
Yeah, that's why we're still collecting it in the same manner.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that would be great to see.
Noted that one as well.
Okay. Yeah, so the reason I was asking about the numbers is because these surveys are pretty small numbers, and they decreased. Actually, you had 33 last year for parents, only 20 this year for parents. So it's important to notice that's a small number and it's a decreasing number. And I noticed that it wasn't sent to students, it's sent to their parents and teachers. Is there a reason we're not asking the students of an inclusion?
Lynn, I don't know if you want to answer that one or if you'd like me to answer.
I could try through you, Chair. It's always difficult to survey students, and students tend to be over-surveyed. So I'm not sure that surveys are a good vehicle for kids to get the kind of information that we want. We've just finished a student climate survey, and it's a challenge. So I do think it was the right decision to survey parents for this particular program, because the kids are not always going to know what the change will mean for them in the short term.
And through you, Chair, we would say that I agree the numbers were low, but we do have ongoing conversations with educators. And it's not always fair to say that educators have the student perspective in wholesome ways. But we are noting that in conversations with our educators in our monthly networks where we're doing professional learning, that they're noticing increased student engagement, increased student throughout the school population, whereas they didn't see that as much last year, that they're, kind of, participating in school-wide events and participating outside the classroom. They have friends within different homeroom classrooms as well, whereas before what we heard from, because many of the communications teachers are the same as they were in the previous program, they noticed more isolation of students because students were in only with those 6 to 8 students all day and didn't have an opportunity to integrate and interact. So as far as well-being is going, the teachers are noticing a significant shift in well-being in students. But we can take that back and consider asking students as well. Thanks.
Yeah, do you think the students are going to be the best person to answer on how they feel included or not? Whether versus like, because if you asked how my child was being included in school, I don't know. I know what he tells me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you. Just thought they should be included. The other one was there was a large group of parents that were very active when the change was being made. Have they kept in contact and we talked to those parents and how they're, how that change has happened for them?
Yeah. Through you, Chair, the invitation is always open, and I think we did have regular communication with some, and they have not continued to communicate with me centrally, but do communicate obviously with our classroom teachers and principals, which is where we really want communication to be. Always, we want communication to land with educators who sit in front of their children every day, and with principals who can address and any situations going on in school. So for the most part, we have not heard back from families that have had the initial concerns.
Great, thank you, appreciate it.
Can I just add one thing through you, Chair? It's not included in the survey data because it wasn't a survey, but we have had maybe 2 meetings a year with the principals of the schools that have clusters, almost all of which would have had the previous model. And so we've had some pretty open and honest conversations about the change, about what worked, what they saw as needing improvement in the first year. And so along with trying to listen to our teachers and build in supports, we've also taken feedback from the administrators at each of the sites.
Yeah, it's good to see that it's getting better year over year. It's just, I'd be curious to see, we don't unfortunately have the data of how they felt in the old system. So it's tough to compare that and see whether the model's better or worse, but at least we'll have the Empower and KT data to show us. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, then. May I have a motion that the Special Education Advisory Committee receives the Communication Cluster Pilot Survey number 2 results? Thank you. Thank you. There we go. All in favor? Okay, great. So there's no communication for action or receipt. No written questions. Report. Okay, so we've got a report from the Brampton Caledon Community Living. It's going to be an oral.
So I'd like to introduce Margaret Gira from staff of Community Living, Director of Communication Resources.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. Clickers, just wonderful. So thank you, Anne. I'm Brampton Caledon Community Living. We provide various services and supports to individuals who have an intellectual disability. So we have, and you'll see in my presentation. Okay. So this is our mission, is what we vision. Our vision is a world that respects and embraces the dignity, inherent value, and rights of all people. And our mission is to empower people who have an intellectual disability to lead enriched and meaningful lives. So we want our vision, our mission is to ensure that people with intellectual disabilities, that they are a citizen of their community. And actually these pictures that you're going to be seeing are actually people that we support within our various programs. Okay. And then of course we have our values. We're very much, inclusion is very big with us as an organization. We respect and we want people to be respected and have dignity. And Also, we're striving for organizational excellence and social responsibility. So our services. So we have an early ed child education department. We have community living supports, which we have various group homes within Brampton and Caledon. Community participation support, so those are day programs. And then we have child and adult service coordination and respite programs as well. This is our.
My name is Nadia Jamil, and I work as a resource consultant in the Early Childhood Education Department in partnership with Peel Inclusion Resource Services. In my role as a resource consultant, I work in collaboration with licensed childcare and home childcare centers to foster inclusion and provide support for children with extra needs. My name is Kayla, and I'm a service coordinator for Brampton Caledon Community Living. Service coordinator.
Sorry. So yes, our preschool, our ECE department. So we have resource consultants who actually go into the licensed childcare and help give strategies on how to get a child with an intellectual disability and or autism to be included within the center. It is a partnership and collaboration with the region of Peel, who is our funder for that particular program, and Erin Kids, Mrs. Camila Mississauga for the south part of Peel, and Every Mind, which provides resource consultants as well. We provide adult and children's service coordination for individuals who are living at home with their parents, and it's from various ages and stages. So we have children's service coordination, and that is we would be able to provide help families do. Sorry, that just totally threw me off there for a second there. I'm so sorry. Let me start back. Right. So we do provide help families navigate the service system. We actually attend school meetings with families. So if there is some issues within school and the families need another voice, we do attend school meetings and work collaboratively with the school. So we try to be sort of the middleman, so we're trying to help families understand the points where the school is coming from, and then we also try to let the school understand where the families are coming from and what their needs are as well. So we do help them to navigate the service system. We meet with families. We would identify goals because service coordination for both children and adults, it is a goal driven. And when we communicate, we collaborate with various community partners. Again, the school being one of those organizations that we do collaborate with. So for the children, if a family wanted to access children's service coordination, they would have to make a referral through Child Development Resource Connection Peel, CDRCP. So we're part of BCCL, we're part of the Kids Pathways Peel collaboration. It's not a standalone organization, it's actually a collaboration between BCCL, Camila Mississauga, Carrie's Place, and Erin Kids. And CDRCP as well. For adult service coordination, a referral must be made through Developmental Services Ontario, DSO. We are not, because of legislation, when the child turns, we could support a family from birth up to their 18th birthday, but at their 18th birthday, unless they've made a referral to the DSO, we are not able to serve them because that is legislated. Okay, so that is, and that's just a family that one of the service coordinators is actually assisting. And then we have our community living supports. That would be probably the largest part of our organization, where we have group homes. I think we have about 35 group homes that we serve, about 100 and I think 50 individuals within Brampton and Caledon in one of our group homes. So we do, again, we are very much community based. We ensure that people have very rich and lives, and that they go out within their community and are actively involved in their community. Oops, I missed something. And then, of course, we have community participation support. So we do have day programs, various day programs. We have day sites. We also offer a virtual program as well. And that's one of the things that came out of COVID, where we did virtual, and so many families really enjoyed it that we continued afterwards. So we're still doing our virtual program. We have a program in Caledon called Caledon Connections. Again, it's very community based. There's a base site, but they go out in the community for various activities. And the same thing with Brampton Connections. I missed. Oh yes. So we do have a program for children who are deemed medically fragile and or technologically dependent. And so these children is from ages 1 to 17 years old. They must be deemed MFTD by Ontario Health at Home. So we provide, it's one-to-one support where we have 2 staff. They go out in the community with these children and youth, and just give them a different perspective. A lot of these children some of them are terminal. They may have spent their first few years of their lives in hospital. And what we had found when we actually made a proposal to the Ministry of Community and Social Services many years ago was that most of these children, they weren't getting any respite because there was 2 homes, but they were out of their community. One was in Milton and the other one was in Cambridge, at homes strictly for respite homes for kids who were deemed medically fragile. And so, we came up with this proposal that, we'll have a worker that they'll provide one-to-one support. They'll go and they'll pick up the children from their home, take them out in the community, and bring them back home. And that has been a great success because a lot of these families, they didn't want to send their children because they're so fragile. They don't want to send their children out of their home community. So it's usually 3 hours once a week, free of cost to the parent. And, we provide transportation. We actually have a wheelchair vehicle because a lot of the children's mobility is an issue. And so we didn't want that to stop a parent from getting some really well-deserved respite support. Then we have the Zone, which is a program, again, for children with diagnosis of autism. So based on the funding that we received from the Ministry of Children and Community and Social Services for this program, the criteria that the child must have a diagnosis of autism. And it's basically just some fun activities that they would do. They could be swimming, it could be going to a movie, some arts and crafts. It's operated out of one of our base sites, and it's Tuesdays and Thursday evenings from 4:30 to 7:30. And then we also have Teen Scene, which is for children again with youth with autism, 14 to 17, and it's usually a Sunday afternoon where they could go out in the community and just do some nice fun things in the community instead of being home or being stuck on technology. With a lot of kids that are stuck on technology nowadays, it's just an opportunity to get back out in their community. And that is it. This is just a video, but we don't need to play it. Okay.
Very cool. Thank you so much for this presentation. Do we may I have a motion to accept the Brampton Caledon Community Living presentation? Thank you. Thank you. And do we have any questions or go ahead?
Thank you, and through you, Chair, just want to acknowledge the depth and breadth of the work that your organization does in supports of not only students but their families. It's really incredible to see how comprehensive the supports are from K all the way up to adulthood. really amazing, and we're so pleased to have a partnership with your organization and being able to serve students and families. So just wanted to thank you for that. And I learned some new things about some other programs that we could recommend. So love the idea of everybody on CX being able to present so that, you know, our department can continue to promote and make sure that families have access to all the supports. We need to together to remove barriers for families that exist so much in so many places. And thank you for doing that. So just wanted to start with gratitude and thanks to both of you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So say we all. All in favor? Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's see, no communications. No chair's request for written questions or committee members. Okay, reports. We already did that. Okay, okay, so yeah, questions asked of and by committee members, no. Okay, so it's committee member motion for consideration. Regional Learning Choices Program, or RLCP, 1-year pilot to amend randomized selection process for students with exceptionalities, presented by Clark, myself. I would like to now transfer the chair over to member Knight so that I may explain my motion. Oh, okay, I don't need to move that. Okay, then. Okie doke. Okay, whereas the Peel District School Board offers regional learning choices programs, or RLCPs, through an application and eligibility review process, followed by a randomized selection process for eligible applicants. Whereas the staff report regional learning choices programs feasibility study, section 7.5, presented to the Special Education Advisory Committee on November 18th, 2025, outlines the current RLCP admissions framework as it pertains to students with identified exceptionalities. Whereas the report indicates that students with exceptionalities, excluding giftedness, who meet eligibility criteria, are offered admission at comparable or higher rates than the general applicant pool, while overall application rates among students with exceptionalities remain low, suggesting that barriers may be linked to awareness, access, and supports during the application process. Therefore, be it resolved that the board directs staff to implement a 1-year pilot, 1 RLCP application admission cycle to exclude students with identified exceptionalities from the randomized section process, provided those students meet all established RLCP eligibility criteria, and that staff implement targeted communications and outreach supports for students with exceptionalities and their families during the pilot period, consistent with strategies outlined in the report, including accessible resources and collaboration with special education and guidance staff. And that staff report back to the board following the completion of the pilot with 1, participation and admissions outcomes for students with identified exceptionalities, 2, any operational, resource, legal, equity, and human rights considerations arising from the pilot, and 3, recommendations on whether the pilot should be continued, amended, or remain permanent. Thank you.
So I need to ask for a seconder for that. So can I have a seconder for the, can I do it?
Okay.
So I have a second. And now we'll be able to floor for discussion. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we'll open the floor up for discussion. Jazzy, I can't see if your hand's up, but I wondered. I know this was a. Yep, go ahead, Jazzy. Oh, go ahead, Jazzy.
No, I don't have any questions or concerns. I just want to thank Jeff for spearheading the motion and sharing that with us. I on side and don't have any hesitations and agree with the recommendation.
I had one comment, provided it won't slow down the process, is that I think in the one section where we talk about the low numbers, that we should be very clear on how low they are. The percentage, it's like 1 out of 20. So I don't know if that's gonna delay the process, but whoever's looking at this, it'd be nice for them to realize that it's not just low, it's ridiculously low kind of thing. So if we put some numbers around that, I think that would be helpful for the motion when it goes on.
Okay with that, Jeff?
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Can we have that in writing, because of some of it I didn't understand, so.
It was in there.
It was in the agenda.
It was in the agenda.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, under
Yeah.
motions, under section.
Yeah. Section 12.
Under section 12.
Yeah, but I must have,
It was a really long. agenda.
yeah, I must have forgotten.
Yeah, it was a
I'd
long.
seen it.
agenda.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Sorry.
Okay, so how are we going to have that? Are we discussing adding the numbers? And will we need to amend the motion? You will.
You're right on it, Chair.
So if we do that tonight.
Is that gonna be an amendment?
Yeah, I can look up the numbers.
Yeah, you're gonna
Last year. Last week.
gonna make a suggestion.
Sorry?
You have to vote for it to talk.
Sorry, you want to talk?
You have to vote.
Chair will have
Okay,
to
no,
vote.
she's chairing right now.
Yeah.
Through the chair, if it's the consent of the committee to allow trustee Alves to speak.
Okay, so is that a motion on the floor or is that just a vote?
Yeah, I'll
So is
support that.
A motion on the floor to have trustee Alves speak. You're seconding that motion. Can we have a vote? Is everyone okay with that? So hands up if you're comfortable with trustee Alves speaking to the motion. 1, 2. Online, can we see a show of hands? 2, 3.
Okay, we got another one here, so.
Okay.
4. I think we've got enough. Go ahead.
Thank you kindly. Thank you kindly, Chair. So as I appreciate the indulgence, I'm no longer a member of the SEAC committee, but remain deeply invested in the work that the committee does as vice chair of the board. I would recommend that the information you shared, that you requested that you'd like to see in the motion, be added to the motion via a motion on the floor. So you just put a motion on the floor to amend trustee Clark's original motion to include that specific data point. I don't know that you need to look it up this moment. You can request that staff, if not too cumbersome, if they could indulge that request by including that data as specifically as they can. But yeah, I think it's a great motion. I just really want to thank trustee Clark for sponsoring the motion and for his work on the motion, and committee member Jesse Gill, who I think deserves all the credit for this motion because it was a conversation with Jesse Gill last year, perhaps even towards the end of the year prior, that sparked all of this. So shout out to you, Jazzy. I think it's great work and you should be really proud. Thanks.
So I would need to make a motion to amend the motion to include the data that shows how many students with special education needs are actually applying versus how many there are in the board percentage of them are applying compared to others. And then we would need a seconder for that, right?
That would be.
You're gonna second it, okay. And now do we vote on that one? Oh, no, we have no discussion. No.
Yeah,
So
no, we have to vote.
Okay. Discussion on the amendment first. Okay, so any discussion on the amendment? Good. Now we can go to a vote. All in favor? Online, can you put your hands up, please? Is that enough?
Yep. Okay.
Okay, so that's motion passed. No,
motion as a whole.
motion as a whole. As passed.
As passed.
Oh, thank you.
So if I may, through the chair, so now we're gonna open the floor for discussion for the motion as amended.
Okay, so let's do that. Let's open the floor for the motion as amended for discussion. Okay, discussion, I'm waiting a moment, I'll say some more hands.
Oh, trustee Clark?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, it's more a comment. I just want to thank member Knight and of course former member and vice chair Al's over there for it was chair co-chair Al's who got us going with this conversation she's been having, and I appreciate this. This is opportunity for us to see how well we can reach out to parents and students to improve their lives. Thank you so much.
Now we vote. Okay, so now the discussion is finished. We're voting on the motion with the amendment. I have trouble, right? Sorry, apologies. Next time I do this, I'll have it all said. Okay, so we are voting to approve the amendment, approve the motion with amendment. All in favor? And online, please. Okay, we're good. That motion's passed.
All right.
Now I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, excellent. It's a great motion and a lot of a little bit of action to amend it. That was great. Okay, so moving on. No more notices of motion. Okay. Motion action log.
Oh, you have a question from Jazzy Bill.
Oh, sorry, through
Oh,
you.
sorry.
Chair,
Yeah,
before
sorry.
that,
My
Jazzy, do you have a
apologies.
question?
Go ahead, Jazzy.
No question. I forgot to take my hand off. I'm sorry. I was going through the PDF and I am doing, trying to read along, but then also participate. Sorry, no question.
No problem. It happens. Okay, so motion action log.
Through you, Chair, we only had one remaining item on the motion action log, and it was related to trustee Allen's interest in raising a notice of motion. I think that we have taken care of that tonight, so I will be removing this item from the motion action log and adding the new items for this evening, including the information about from the communication departments and some data from the common pilot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and if there's nothing else, may I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, excellent. Thank you. And yeah, so that's it. Thanks a lot, guys.